Hello, everybody. Once again, I'm Liam McCrafty Jr., aka Zorval Chan Less Than Guru. Today is Torg Tuesday. If you watched my video yesterday, my bi-weekly update, then I said that I wanted to present something that an optional rule to Torg that you could use in your own home game that I took basically or am taking from Earth Dawn. Earth Dawn is another game that I currently play. It's another game that I really love. Earth Dawn and Torg are both games that were made in the 1990s, released back then, and they have current editions that are very close in the core to the original rules. Now, what's interesting is Earth Dawn and Torg have completely different ways of the game mechanics and the story of the game and the reasoning behind everything and what is kind of important in the game. Earth Dawn is a game that you really take time into account. And I mean time is in hours and days and weeks into account. When you advance your talents and your skills, it can take money for skills, and talents and skills both cost legend points, which are their experience points of Earth Dawn, that advancement currency. And like to advance the talent, you need 8 hours of a day where you're not damaged and you don't have wounds. Basically, like in Torg Eternity, say to be able to raise a skill, you can't have shock or wounds after the act. And then you would need to heal those instead of a lot of times, and I do it as well in Torg Eternity. If we're going in between acts and there's a lot of time, we just assume people heal. Okay, everybody get rid of your shock, everybody, get rid of your wounds, we're starting fresh. In Earth Dawn, all of that is taken into account, or needs to be taken into account. And it's something that's interesting because I really love the design for Earth Dawn, and I really love the design for Torg Eternity when I'm doing Torg Eternity. Because again, it's one of those things where I can have different views on different systems depending on what is the purpose of this game. Earth Dawn, I really love getting into the nitty-gritty of time management. And okay, we're stopping in this city. I'm a weaponsmith. I want to be crafting weapons and armor and doing stuff as well as upping circles, which is what everybody else is there for. So I have to basically convince my group to stay there longer, to do downtime even longer than it is, because that's going to benefit me and it's going to benefit the group, indirectly or directly if I forge their weapons, etc. In Torg Eternity, a lot of people say it's like movies. I don't. I say it's like TV series because you have the same cast of characters, the Storm Knights, and each act or adventure can be completely separate. So just like a TV series, you could be in France one day and the United States the next day and Russia the next day, just kind of like episodes of any type of, whether it's Star Trek or Farscape or the A-Team, anything like that. You could have those type of episodic things where one time they're here and the next time here and the next time here. And that's kind of what Torg Eternity setup is for me. Now, the thing that is the reason that I'm taking a optional rule from Earth Dawn and presenting it to you in Torg Eternity is because there is one thing about the systems that are similar. And my ring was going off. It's the mail person. So sorry about that if you heard that. The thing that's similar is that unlike, say, Dungeons and Dragons, which has spell slots, or old school Palladium spell slots, second edition Palladium have magic points or PPE points or ISP if it's psychic abilities, there is no limit, I'll say, in spellcasting besides you might fail. So instead of it being an automatic success because I spent a spell slot or used these magic points to cast the spell, I have a chance of failure. And that's kind of the mitigating factor, the balance there. And it's something that I am fully happy with. And the thing is when you have that limited resource, though, then prepping for something has weight. So If we want to prep ourselves before we open the door and rush in, start the combat, then I'm expending magic points or spell slots or whatever that game system's resources are for that magic. And when I say magic in Torg Eternity, I'm also talking about miracles and psychic powers, because in Eternity, they all work the exact same way, even though in the original they worked separately. So the original doesn't quite take effect because they had other things. In Torg Eternity, if you fail a spell, normally you take 2 points of shock. There's perks and various things that mitigate some or all of that. And then there's some situations that occur that you might hurt yourself more. But basically, it's 2 shock. And if you wait a minute and you're not in a combative, stressful situation, it goes away. So there's not as much weight. In combat, there's weight to those 2 points of shock. Outside of combat, there's not so much weight. In Earth Dawn, you might have to weave some threads and then cast a spell. You have a chance of failure. And in combat, weaving those threads, each thread is a round of combat that you're doing, so length of time is the weight. But if you take away that weight, and you don't have that weight being spell slots or magic points or something like that outside of combat, you can just say, I cast it until I succeed. I cast it until I make X many successes in Earth Dawn or outstanding success in Torg Eternity. And that got to the point when the game was released and people started playing. The spells are designed to be cast in combat, to be cast at least in rounds. So when you take the rounds and the stress and the weight of possibly taking 2 points of shock out of the equation, why not prep? So people were saying, I just keep casting until I get outstanding. So do we really need to have me roll 40 times or however many times, or can I just say that I have it outstanding? And game masters might go, well, you're casting this spell or miracle and it has an axiom of this, so maybe you'll disconnect. So we need to roll to see if you disconnect, and then if you disconnect, we need to see if you reconnect, and if you might transform or lose a reality add. And you have all these things, so you're making needless rolls for prepping. So the official ruling came out is you can have all those things prepped and don't worry about it. Just have those things prepped. And when combat starts, that adrenaline boost, that in-action moment of you're going along with all these concentration spells, and then suddenly, boom, I'm in combat happens, everything, your adrenaline boost clears your mind, you lose concentration. Basically, just to say, no, you can't prep, and here's an in-game reason for it. The same thing kind of could happen in Earth Dawn. And it would be, okay, this spell has a 10-minute duration. So every 10 minutes, the group stops, I cast until I succeed, and then we move on, we stop in 10 minutes, etc. So Earth Dawn came up with something that they call chain casting. And Earth Dawn is always interesting to me because they have a lot of terms that mean different things than how I would think that they meant or would mean. And it's my opinion, so maybe my mind thinks differently. So when I hear something like chain casting, and I'm thinking maybe it's like you cast a spell and then another spell right after it, either the same spell or a different spell, and it like builds up, type thing in a chain. And no, it's basically just that I just cast it every time the duration ends. And what they state is you can do it, but you only get a standard success or your straight success. Earth Dawn doesn't have, in the newest edition, does not have like Torg Eternity with standard, good, outstanding. They have it based off of 5 as well, but it's just successes, a success, and then an additional success, 2 additional successes, 3, etc. They do it as many as you have 5s, multiple 5. So Torg kind of stops at the plus 10 of outstanding, but it's that same thing. And they just basically say, if you don't want to roll it, and you just want to say, okay, I want to have this spell prepared, say that you're chain casting, and what chain casting allows you to do is you roll the die, you get it, and then, or maybe it's not even roll the die. We haven't actually used that in Earth Dawn. I was listening to a podcast on it. But basically, it's just you keep doing it over and over and over as the duration ends, and it just gives you a standard of success. And I thought, wow, this is something that would really would really work in Earthdawn or in Torg Eternity, in my opinion. That you give the people that want to have that prep that thing to prep, because in Torg Eternity, like I said, it's episodic, and even within those episodes, those acts, there's scenes, and where Earthdawn wants to get you through that entire time, every hour, every minute, every week, every day, every week, every month is important. It's not in Torg. Torg goes, okay, we're the A team. We need to get on the plane. What's the one thing, or what do we need to get on the plane? We need to knock in some way VA Baracus out, and then we get on the plane, and then the next thing you know, we're in the next city or whatever. You don't have that time in between. That time in between is not needed for a Torg Eternity game. So do you want to prep? Do you want to have that spell ready? And we're talking concentration spells here. You want to have that ready. Your player says, yes, I want to have that ready. Say, okay, you have it at a standard success. You can tell me, you can have all, if you have 5 different concentration spells, you have them all up. But when that adrenaline boost pops, boom, instead of just me saying no, like it says officially on the FAQ, in the errata, no, you can have those up. Just make a concentration check, and I'll allow it to be a free concentration check. As soon as the battle happens, you roll the die, see if your concentration check works. Or if you have multiple spells, then you have your penalties, -2 for each spell. If you succeed, they're all at standard. If you want them to be good or outstanding, then you need to make the roll. You need to spend the action to make it a good or outstanding. But if you're happy with being prepped, then just say, I have it prepped, make the concentration roll. If they succeed, then they start all those concentrations at standard success. And I think that is kind of a good thing. Why the concentrations thing? That's that adrenaline pop. That's that rush that might have it so that you lose concentration. But it's not an absolute how it is in the official. It's either errata or the FAQ. So that is my presentation as an optional rule for your Torg Eternity table. If you like it, then go with it and leave in the comments what your opinion on it is. I think it's something that would work good. It gives the people who like to prep and have those prep spells, those concentrations that would be nice to have before they get into combat, have them ready, but no arguments between Game Master. And when I say argument, I don't mean like heated anger, yelling. I just mean like a discussion. You don't have to have those, well, the pros are this and the cons are this, and can I word my argument to convince the Game Master to let me have outstanding? And the Game Master is like, well, do I really want them to just have outstanding to start with? This is kind of a nice fair baseline. You can have all of them prepped. You make the concentration so that the more prep that you have is a greater chance of failing and not starting with it. So if you just really wanted to start with one thing, then you have that one thing prepped, and hopefully you make your concentration roll, spend a possibility, spend some cards. Yeah, I'd even let them spend cards, even though they're not in the pool. It's kind of, it's a pre-thing going on, unless they're surprised, I'd have something different. But, or at least let them spend possibility. Maybe not let them use cards. I hadn't thought about possibilities or cards before this video. Thought about having it just average. You should just say, you have it average. Make the concentration check. If they succeed, they have it at average. If they want to boost it to good or outstanding, then they can spend a later action to try to recast it or cast it again at a higher success level. So that is my thing. So hopefully it gives you something to think about. And having said that, until next time, once again, I'm Liam Crafton Jr., aka Zorval Chan, less than Guru. Until next time, we'll see you later.